This is the Washington Times front page for Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Iran threatened ships in the Strait of Hormuz, forcing the U.S. to sink Iranian fast boats in clashes that have imperiled a fragile ceasefire. Mike Glenn, Vaughn Cockane, and Tom Howe report hostilities broke out early after the start of a U.S. effort to guide ships through the strait. The Pentagon said U.S. forces sank 6 Iranian small boats, a marked escalation of aggression since the ceasefire between the two nations went into effect last month. The United Arab Emirates said it engaged 12 ballistic missiles, 3 cruise missiles, and 4 drones launched from Iran, which resulted in 3 moderate injuries. UAE authorities warned citizens to stay away from windows and open areas in a series of alerts, the first since the ceasefire began in early April. The military effort announced by President Trump intends to help crews avoid mines and other dangers in the waterway. If it works, the operation could reduce Iran's leverage by depriving it of control over the strait. The president said his main goal is to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and that he'll not be rushed into making a deal while pressuring Iran's economy with a blockade of Iranian ports. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito has issued an order allowing the abortion pill to continue to be available through remote appointments and mail, putting on hold an appeals court decision that found the FDA improperly relaxed safety requirements for the drug. Stephen Dinan reports Alito issued an administrative stay, which blocks a lower court decision for a week, while the high court hears additional briefings and considers the case more fully. He issued the order 3 days after a ruling by the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals and 2 days after 2 pharmaceutical firms rushed to the Supreme Court asking it to intervene. At issue is the drug mifepristone. Its use allows a pregnancy to be terminated without a surgical visit. The drug has been approved for decades, but traditionally required an in-person visit for the prescription and dispensing. The FDA suspended the in-person dispensing requirement during the COVID-19 pandemic and made the change permanent in 2023. House Republicans have advanced 3 key legislative priorities in the past week: a budget resolution for immigration enforcement funding and a short-term FISA extension. Lindsay McPherson reports Speaker Mike Johnson capped off those victories with a surprisingly anticlimactic end to the nearly 3-month shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. The House quietly cleared a Senate-passed DHS funding bill by voice vote after the Speaker and his conference held it up for weeks because it excluded the budgets of immigration enforcement agencies. Dozens of House Republicans have been critical of Johnson and his leadership team for packing the schedule last week with bills that hadn't yet earned the full conference's support. Yet it was far-right Freedom Caucus members defending Johnson after House Republicans passed the bills that Washington observers said they couldn't. Prosecutors say the man accused of starting the devastating Palisades fire in Southern California compared the act to the fatal shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. In a pretrial memo filed April 29th, Susan Ferricchio reports federal prosecutors said 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht was described by his Uber passengers as angry, intense, and driving erratically on December 31st, 2024. Prosecutors allege that was just hours before he ignited a fire that smoldered underground and ultimately spread to 37 square miles across Southern California. Rinderknecht's passengers said he ranted about being angry at the world and about Luigi Mangione, who faces murder charges in the December 2024 killing of Thompson. Rinderknecht pleaded not guilty. His attorney, Stephen Haney, said prosecutors had no evidence tying him to the fire. And finally, the head of the Navy is pushing a next-generation doctrine of smarter force packaging and autonomous system integration. The reason, Guy Taylor reports, is that Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Daryl Caudill said beating China on the shipbuilding front may not be feasible in the near term. That's because it would require production at a higher rate than we have previously done, according to the Admiral. Although China has surpassed the U.S. in total ship numbers with an estimated 370 compared with roughly 295 American ships, the U.S. Navy maintains superior power projection. However, concerns are great in national security circles about the Pentagon's ability to maintain global naval dominance amid China's goal of developing a world-class Navy by 2050. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.